Alright, Lego back again, this time with a mini project because frankly I needed a step back from the big project for a while. I've been doing three big projects in a row now and I needed a little breather, so I made this little piece which required me to find a picture of Ahsoka Tano in a fairly neutral position so that I could make a silhouette of it. So I scoured the internet and I found this piece from Clone Wars season seven I think, um, which was fairly neutral. It showed her whole contour, and it was not very ambiguous because you can see her limbs and you can see her characteristic silhouette very clearly. So I decided to take this one. And the first thing I did was try to trace it using the tool in Inkscape, but it wasn't precise enough. There was too much noise, so I just had to do what I always do: trace it manually because that's the way Inkscape does it. If you want to remove background and stuff, it's tracing manually, just point to point to point. And after I did that, I just made some small adjustments to the shape to bring out the characteristics that I needed and I wanted. Because it's not always clear when you make a silhouette what it's actually supposed to be. So sometimes you need to remove elements, sometimes you need to add elements. And in this case, I decided to forego the lightsabers because I knew that the hand positions were going to get pretty tricky otherwise. So you can see that her left forearm and fingers are a bit of an issue right now because if I try to trace them the way they're meant to be, it'll be it'll look very weird uh, in silhouette form. So I'm trying to see if I can salvage it by actually making each finger individually, but it just ended up looking weird. So I had to scrap that. Instead, tracing the sabers separately, and then because I can do some separate color work on that. Uh, and tracing it by hand made it look pretty crooked. So instead, I just decided to make a solid shape and uh, maintain the um, the squareness, I suppose, of the actual saber instead of making it crooked. So I just made it out of solid shapes instead. Uh, that way, I can manipulate the saber later and still maintain the proportions of the saber. So just a simple shape like that, and shorten it up a bit, and then there we go. We got two lightsabers. And perspective doesn't matter that much here, but in reality, one of the sabers looks shorter than the other. I just didn't care about that. But you can see now how the hands might look very weird if I trace them individually. I did give it a go, but no, it looks a little awful. So instead, I made a slight change in posture, uh, gave her a full grip instead of the two fingers off that she had before. And then it's just a matter of tracing the lightsaber itself. Just a simple line will do. And after that, I decided to scale everything up a bit because now I had the thing I wanted, and now it's time to look at the text. For this, I just wanted a simple but very unusual style of Sherman's because the new show Ahsoka has a way of making the title, and I wanted to sort of emulate that a bit. So I wanted I guess, a sci-fi version of Sherman's. Is the best description I could give. Sort of like a little bit of Orabesh thrown in for good measure, like in the manners of the letters, some sharp corners, some sharp edges, and some straight lines. Most importantly, of all, straight lines all the way. So the first design I did here was the thing about this is I wanted to make as few lines as possible. So it's very minimalistic. I wanted to make just enough so that you can see what each letter is supposed to be, but then nothing more. Um, so I'm just doing some tests here with a few variations. And I also wanted to, as you can tell there, I lined it up horizontally. I wanted everything to be pretty much straight. So I'm going for some horizontal symmetry ish, which is not something I've done before, but I gave it a try, and some very minimalistic effects there with some tapers. And then I did some kind of funny playing around with some of the nodes on the bottom there, because that's just decoration arcs. So now they got that funny pattern thing, which I quite like. And at this point, I'm ready to see if this goes together the way I hope. Because as always, I'm just going with the flow and seeing what works and what doesn't. So um, I cropped out her hand there so that it goes above the lightsaber, but her lightsaber itself is in front of the rest of the silhouette. Um, what I wanted to do before actually applying the text is make the lightsaber, and it's pretty easy to make lightsabers once you know how. It's not the first time I've done it, but it's the first public project where I've done it. So you start off with the color that you want. So in this case, it's blue. Then you make it blurry. Then you take another shape, put it inside, make it lighter and less blurry. And then as the final piece, you put a white center, make it slightly blurry. Um, but the combined effect means that you have pretty much the color you need. So it's really pretty simple, and you can make an even bigger blur behind it if you want to give off that signature color blow that I just did there, to sort of light up some of her silhouette so that it doesn't look so flat. Maybe slightly less than, there we go. And I ended up making the lightsabers black, even though I could have changed the color of those. I decided to end up just using the black. So it's only the lightsabers that stand out, which is probably what I wanted, because those are, along with her signature, like her profile, the lightsabers are what stands out. Um, and then I just made a simple background, slightly blue, just a hint of blue in the background there, because it matches up pretty well with her color scheme that I'm going for right now. And then just adding some silver gradients there. And I mean, that's pretty much what I had in mind when I started this. So I could edit here because I'm pretty happy with that. But I just got an idea for a second way of writing it, and I really had to try it, because as fun as that was the first time I wrote it, it was still pretty easy to see it was Sherman. It was pretty easy to tell. So this time I wanted something really outlandish, something really minimalistic. So minimalistic that someone might argue that this is unreadable. But I mean, I'm gonna try it. So this time I'm trying to make um, sort of like every letter individually, no stack letters, but I'm trying to connect all of the lines that make up the word. Sort of like if you write a piece of text and never lift your pen from the paper, sort of like this, um, where every line needs to fit with the next one in some manner. So um, I'm writing out all 6 letters individually, and then I'm trying to figure out how can I make the lines connect, how can I make the letters connect in a way that still makes them possible to spot individually, but also gives it that sci-fi foreign look that doesn't really belong in Sherman's. Um, some might argue that this is um, a bit of abuse, or at least it. At this point, if I wanted this effect, I shouldn't have used Sherman's. I should have used some other language, like TARDIS console might actually be better suited for this. But I didn't want any complex shapes, so it's a balance between minimalism and just abusing Sherman's until I get the result that I want. So um, I'm pretty happy with this, but at the same time, I'm also very biased. So anyway, I'm making up my mind about where the letters and the dots go. So I'm keeping in the horizontal plane here. So I just made those letters horizontal. I'm bridging the gaps here manually because some of it is a path, some of it is an arc, and some of it is an object. So there's no clean way to do this. So I'm just dirtying it. You can tell that I'm just making up the corners as I go to make up for the roundedness of connecting the pieces. So there's absolutely no finesse in this. It's just me eyeballing it and making it look the way I want it, and applying um, the same color scheme there. And I actually like this way better because it's still Sherman's, but it's just so foreign looking that uh, you have to look at it for an extra second to just really see where the letters are and what it's actually supposed to say. So I really like this. I decided to put it down below and just add a second gradient at the bottom to just tie it all together. And I really like this. So this is the project.